Welcome to my show. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to touch base on some alchemy, some colors, four corners, and stuff. This is returning back to Mother Earth, returning back to Turtle Island, and re-alchemizing the rainbow, taking back symbols, and um, lifting up the consciousness of the people so that people can remember who they are. This is the sacred water returning. People talked about it for a long time, but understanding is something different because what has taken place is, there's a lot of cross-referencing throughout timelines that must be understood to come back into the center point, because what has happened in ancient history throughout all cultures has left people in the spiritual bondage, even if they are 100% Native American, wherever they come from. So you have four winds, four corners, four tribes. All of this stuff has been healed. The circle has been returned to the people. The zodiac animals of all cultures, all tribes. Everything was distorted, manipulated. And so it's all about the spirit, the spiritual animals, the sacred animals, and everything. Mother Earth, the universe, Divine Mother, Divine Father, Great Spirit, heaven on earth, creation. It's about creation. So we're walking a path of, as in today, a lot of people walking a path of confusion. We're stuck in a new age, light worker path, call it, everyone thinking they're going galactic. You have a lot of manipulation within Christianity and mainstream religions. But what it is everyone must turn back to Mother Earth. Everyone has to turn back to Turtle Island to come in and take the one path. That's the thing. There's many cultures, there's many walks of life today, but people stuck in the manipulated music and not having the proper spirit within themselves, in the heart frequency, love frequency, because everything is a distortion. So we have to overcome the invisible frequencies that have been manipulating us throughout time, and really today it's come into AI and satanic technology, what I call it. So it's space wars and everything. What people think of ancient history when hear stories of looking up in the heavens, looking up in the sky and seeing space wars, but the people, the tribes of yesteryears knew. They've had direct contact with beings, as they would say, the Pleiadians and stuff like this, the star people. But a lot of people today, they say that they are the star beings, they are Pleiadians, they come from Sirius, they come from Lyria, all of these different planets who have come here to save Mother Earth. And a lot of people have been reincarnated in past lives, who have been traumatized through sacrifice and war and all kinds of sad things, Native American, Nordic, biblical times. So, but what people don't understand within the prophecies, there's the four corners, and when people look at the symbol, they look at just America, but within America, you have timelines that go back into The first piece of land coming out of the water, stuff like that. It's the land of the rainbow prophecy. It's the land of where um, the hippies were created and then traveled the world and created, the Green Party, and, wanted to live off land, away from the government, and go back to the roots. That's the thing. But they wouldn't allow people, they take people off their land, So you're looking at the situation today, but it's the spirit that has returned to the people, but it comes within a frequency and within an understanding of what is under your feet, because that's the part of being confused in the upside down world, and the circle and the sun cross and the medicine wheel and everything that people have lost, because we today are mutts, half Native American, half European, Scottish, whatever, but that's the part of the unity, because once you understand who you are within, and your soul, you're an experienced soul who recalls their timelines and everything from the past. There's a lot of newer souls who this is their first time being incarnated and learning to walk a spiritual path, but not quite understanding the red road and everything that has taken place in ancient history and what is truly under our feet. So this is mainly based on Turtle Island, but how far does Turtle Island stretch is the thing, because you're only looking at it in the sense of Native American prophecy. But when looking at today's people, the New Age movement, there's a lot of different types of spirituality within symbolism. And people look at the Merkaba, which is a Jewish Kabbalah symbol, and then people look at the Rainbow Prophecy, which is Native American, and then they look at their chakra system. They look at Buddha, which is Hindu, and then people look at the Mayan times, and really people piggyback on spirituality from all different cultures. In today's timeline, the majority of people are light workers or white, maybe a little Native American, a little Spanish, we'll say, brown. But for the majority, if you go look into Africa and you go look into other countries and what has taken place, and the Irish really not even understanding that they were enslaved at one time. But it's all about the road traveled, within and without, as above so below, and regaining the power of understanding your sacred truth of your inner temple and how all of this stuff works, so you can reclaim your circle. It's a lot of what people don't understand with their mind, because you go back in the Nordic times, the feminine had the circle. You have the circle of protection. You have to have the circle to know your directions, your four winds, four corners, four colors. But this is all about the rainbow prophecy. It's about returning back to your creation. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, because you have black tribe, red tribe, yellow tribe, white tribe. So it all falls into skin tone, we will say. But, every tribe has worshipped Nagas, every tribe has worshipped the serpent. Every tribe has worshipped the dragon, and the sacred animals. Um, but that's, it's also a lot of talk, because the zodiac wheels, and the astrology and everything that you see in the universe has been corrupted. The storyline of getting into the Pleiadians. So the Pleiadian being the Mayan calendar. So, but everything's been fixed. But that's for one to accept. There's a lot of trigger points, a lot of triggers going on today with situations that are taking place out there, because it's the age of confusion. We're shifting, we're changing. Mother Earth is being lifted back up, and this is the Rainbow Prophecy. So I'm going to switch to a map about Turtle Island. I've made other videos on this, but as time goes on with ascension, things change. I've had a lot of visions of things, a lot of prophetic visions over the years. But in this age, I don't really share my stuff with too many people, because it's just, one, I'm shadow pan, two, it is what it is. Trying to fight, against the wind, against the manipulated wind, we will say. All the elements have been returned within the circle, elementals, because we're in winter time, and this is Nordic season, and so we, it's all the past timelines are here on Turtle Island, and there's one road traveled, but everything that you see here within these ley lines is all you need to know. Everything you get into, like UK and France and Ireland and Scotland and everything over there, it's all actually connected to here. And that's a lot of what people don't understand, when getting into the Hyperborealis, and then you're looking at the Bermuda Triangle and all this Akkadian line and the temple down in Mexico, and that's where you're looking here, and then you got the blue Kachina coming over, and that's, why is the word, language, Kachina, the word China is in the word China, Kachina. So being spiritual, and talking about the blue Kachina, but you're actually saying China. So it's just a lingo and language that people don't understand. But when it comes to transmutation, inner changes within Mother Earth, portholes have opened up on her. There have been portholes. Everyone talks about ley lines and pressure points and stuff, and you can see where all the cities are built. But it's about what was here once before, and everything east. It's like east of the Akkadian line being Greek times and Bermuda Triangle, and we look at the columns of DC and everything with the Philadelphia Art Museum, and how things are taken off of how it was many moons ago. But the Bermuda Triangle, being a spiritual porthole, and connecting to New Zealand, and all of this stuff. This is why everything has taken place in the Caribbean for such a long time, and why it looks the way that it does now. And you get into the Pirates of the Caribbean, and all that stuff, and why they came here and why the ones came into Philadelphia and so forth. It's, people talk about Mexico and they talk about the Maya times and they talk about ancient history and they talk about Atlantis, all this stuff in the past, but they don't understand the land they're walking on today. They don't understand the timeline that they're on today, because the people fell out of time. They fell out of the Mayan timeline. If the Mayans were the keepers, where are you today? And where are we going back into the tree of life? Because people talk on the tree of life. They talk on sacred geometry. They talk on Merkabas and chakra systems, but they don't know they don't have the hermetic codes of Maya's calendar. That's the part where everyone talks about this book of Thoth and this Atlantean crap, because Hermes did not write the Emerald Book of Thoth or whatever. Thoth is not Hermes. It's just a manipulation of what been told to the people, and that's so much spiritual manipulation over eons to take people away from one storyline and put them on another. So it goes same thing with the dream spell of the Mayan calendar, because everything has been fixed and everything has been taken back. So a lot of people want to talk on reincarnation and being galactic and and all this stuff. People don't understand who is actually reincarnated to fix this stuff and who has brought down the energy and everything that needed to take place, rebuilding a temple, because everything you look at in this fake Israel stuff and all this stuff people are talking about over there in Israel and Egypt, and it's all fake, okay? Because the first builders were in America. The first builders were, here, and but people can't see that. They tell you, a storyline, but and if you don't know the real spiritual history of it all, of where time really started, where people creation happened, then you're not really on board. But because it's the portholes, it's going within, the darkness, and in the realms that people don't understand. The nightmares that come onto your heart in the middle of the night that are so scary that you don't want to go back to sleep. The visions, because it's all part of creation. It's what has been hiding behind the curtain ever since the fall out of the tree, ever since they came for your ancestors, ever since they drained the blood out of your ancestors, the sacrifice of all tribes. Isn't this why we are here today? To lift up Mother Earth and bring back the enlightenment and protect the feminine and protect the children and the animals. Because it's about creation. It's not about people's individual bitching and complaining about their little things in this reality. There's a lot of people suffering, and there's so many people that ignore the situation. You have all, not even going to get into the 3D stuff. So this is, this is the interdimensional stuff, and, being on the timeline shift of traveling from the lower realms into the higher realms, it's understanding that everything of ancient history, all the energies of ancient history come through Philadelphia. come through Delphi, because this is the location of where Tesla made the Navy ship disappear. This is where the Declaration of Independence, this is where this country was created, after the sacrificing of the First Nation, of the Naga people. Because that's the part where people don't understand about the Naga people, about Hindustan, about Turkestan, about the three Indies, what was here once before, and what the cataclysms were that sunk Atlantis and Lemuria and stripped apart the islands. But it's so much more, because people talk on the ice wall, they talk on the Hyperborealis, and the entrance point. Because, you have the serpent mound, you have all of these lines here, and what does it really mean to travel north within oneself and on the land? There's a lot of stories, a lot of fairy tales of stuff. But the inner journey and what it is with them coming for the gold. Everyone's heard about the Anunnaki, but where did they go? Yeah, you can go to Africa, you go to South America, Mexico, but no one really talks about North America, because where there are no temples is where the entrance point is into heaven. So you're seeing the Blue Kachina, you're seeing the Native American line, you're seeing the Acadia line, you're seeing the Bermuda Triangle, you're seeing today what is going on in the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America. It's all repeat over here on the East Coast and whatever is going on the West Coast. But the entrance point spiritually is on the East Coast, and it stops here. This is why you have the Blue Kachina, and then you have the Akkadian. I can get into the Aryan, but nobody knows. So we're traveling west. People talking the Four Corners, they're talking Colorado, and the situation that just took place in Utah with Charlie Kirk. You look at Utah, you look at the Finger Lakes. Finger Lakes being the entrance point of the dragon. As above, so below. The Luciferian Mormon hijack today of this whole entire thing of trying to hijack people down a fake Christian path, fake Christian, that's the part of returning back to Mother Earth, waking up, understanding what is under your feet, understanding all of these prophecies, and that, the Merkaba being from the Kabbalah, the Kabbalah tree of life and being Jewish, and then you have a rainbow prophecy, which no one understands how a rainbow is created. And then you got your chakra system and your DNA, which is invisible, and your sacred water and your fire, and and all this stuff, and your elements and your fairies and your unicorns and your dragons and all of your animals that you've lost. And that's also the part of why did they, the Hopewell, build all of these mounds in the form of animals to reflect the zodiac animals and the wheels, two wheels of creation, because your dragon and your horse and other spiritual animals are on the Chinese medicine wheel. But spiritual people today think, they're being in America for the most part, their culture is corrupted, because Native Americans don't even know what sacred water is anymore. Irish don't know their unicorn, and the spirit of Buddha, because it's just everyone piggybacking on the dead Buddha, hijacking, So that's what they did with the rainbow and the Baphomet and all this stuff. transgenderism, Baphomet loving, and what you see in Hollywood of trying to manipulate the masculine and feminine and so forth. But everything has been fixed, coming back into the center point. So you're traveling west, and you can look at locations. You can look at all this stuff, and so everyone looks at the spiritual stuff of out west, Four Corners and Mount Shasta, but they don't know anything out east. That's the part, if you're really, 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 really looking deep into stuff. Bermuda Triangle is an old thing. No one talks about it no more. So, you can get into Greenland, you can get on to all that stuff, but what was truly here on the East Coast, up in the north, and what is the difference between, in Atlantis, Atlanta, ATL, is not in any other language. It's not transitioned to any other language. It's only a Mayan term. But, you get into, the Hopi, rainbow prophecy, and everything like this. It's all, there is missing timelines and stuff. But so if we're moving west, this is the transmutation of what is on the land when the sun rises and when the sun sets, and what is within the crown colors of Judah, the crown, red, green, and gold, and getting into the Nordic Hyperborealis within the symbolism of the pine tree, and putting the Nordic star back on top, because it's the owl, as people say, it's, Bohemian Grove. And so we're traveling east to west, out of the water from, Atlantis, so forth, to Lemuria, because you need a land bridge. You got to go into the serpent, there's the serpent mound. So you have to be initiated into certain frequencies to understand the spiritual path on Turtle Island. So once we, travel over, the prairie and get out west, people look at South Lake Tahoe, and they look at Emerald Bay, look at Emerald Triangle, they look at Mount Shasta and the Pleiadians and all this stuff in the Northwest about the Pleiadians. It's more than just the Northwest. It's the Pleiadians reflect as above, so below on the I-80, north of I-80, kind of, across, so it's what I know spiritually. But it's not, Northwest, you get into, Sasquatch and Bigfoot, but it's the transmutation and within the alchemical, within the high heart, the green and gold, the green and gold of the West, of how South Lake Tahoe and how it's all called Emerald Triangle, Emerald Bay, and stuff like this. It's green and gold, heart center. But you're moving up this whole thing with the flood of the northwest and all of the water, and you have to look at what was created in the northwest over these years of spiritual manipulation to hijack people out of creating the grunge and turning Portland and Seattle into what it is today. It's like the broken branch of the tree, and it needed to be flooded out. It's a sad thing, but it's part of judgment that people don't understand, don't see it. They just think that it's a normal thing, because the road traveled on the land. You've run out of space on the West Coast. There's no more land to travel, so this is the end of the road spiritually for them. And because they're not allowed, they attempted to go west to get the gold. it's not just about mining for gold and like stealing the gold. It's getting into what it really is, and that's the reflection of your chakras and the Ouroboros and the dragon and the Sphinx, the lion's mouth, because Egypt is, not over there. That's part of the manipulation. And because here on the land, you got to look at the people. You got to look at the Naga people and the black Native Americans, the darker tribes, the Nagas, and the Mayans, and who was here on the islands before the devils came. So, this whole thing, you look at what is taking place out west with the Utah, and it looks like space wars and Grand Canyon and stuff, and it's a desert, So people don't know, and you're getting back into the flood of stuff, and what really took place during the Ice Age and why it took place. Because it's the Hyperborealis, it's the ice wall, it's a fairy tale, and within everyone talks about the North Pole, and we can't get in because it's frozen over. It's all BS stuff, because in reality it's spiritual. That's a transformation within of water, the sacred water, blue and white and silver. No one can see the quicksilver, no one can see the mercury. It actually transforms into gold. This is all alchemy within your chakra system and your DNA, and the transformation within your belly, to match up to what is happening within Mother Earth, and rebuilding of Maya's calendar of the Pleiadians and Jacob's ladder. Because people can't just move into a new space without rebuilding it. You can't move into a house without building it. So how are you going to move into a house? That's their thing about, building the third temple. You got to build the temple and move into it, So climbing Jacob's ladder and coming into a porthole that no one's able to see, no one's able to access, because it's the transformation of the fire and the water. So transforming the fire and the water, a lot of people think of the violet flame, but all this stuff, the violet flame, always been here, but really has only been activated in the collective last year, transmuting the sacrifice blood, freeing the ancestors from the spiritual bondage from sacrifice, because this has to take place before anything. You have to free the ancestors to move back into ascension, and that's part of what people are missing about this whole thing of being a light worker. There's still a lot of darkness, and there's still a lot of stuff that people are missing within their transformation, because it can't be accepted in their mind, because the level of soul traveling, soul experience of remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, and just having the soul druidic magi experience of whatever. That's the part a lot of people piggyback, say that they are shamans and druids and light workers, and in this timeline it's nothing but words. And so the transformation of the red and the blue creates violet flame within transmuting the within transmuting the sacrifice ones out, the ancestors out, but then you get into the transmutation of the um, fire, and the water of oneself, and lifting up into the initiation of what once was behind the ice wall. And that's what people are not able to access, because it is the pink China, it is the bloodline of Mary, it is the pink high heart within oneself, and the frequency is too high for one to be able to accept, because the emerald heart chakra, as being a lot of people talk on this stuff, but it's all about it, Mother Earth's location, as a lot of people say. And you know Alaska, Russia, where all this stuff, earthquakes and stuff, people are talking crown chakra, and it's not that, it's what is within the land of frequencies of the gold, because isn't that what they came for? They came for the gold, but it's the gold of transformation that they came for, because they don't have any elements of their own. When you're speaking about the fallen ones, all they had was fire, but you need fire to create gold, so, but you also need water. But how is the emerald created? And this is the emerald curtain of the Wizard of Oz, because you're walking the yellow brick road. If one's able to access the initiation, and that's the death cycle of what everyone speaks on, of being spiritually initiated. And that's what this bullshit stuff is, of the Freemasons, of wanting to being locked in a coffin like Osiris, and stuff like this, which is a bunch of bullshit. But it's just still spiritual fall. And what it is today, it's it's deep. So we're moving up, and that's the overcoming of the mind, overcoming of the frequencies, and having a positive mind. And it is difficult, and just ignoring outside world's a mess, but it's part of the end times. So be the light in the darkness, and be there for everybody. But the transitioning, they talk on the Pleiadians, and so we're going up. You see the dragon line, and there's a rose line, there's a dragon line, and there's a rose line. And the rose line being pink, so it's in the dragon line, and so forth. But up in Alaska, is where you can find the rose gold. That's the thing. It's a rose gold frequency. And because the people talk on black gold, white gold, rose gold. I guess there's green gold. It's when silver meets gold. The silver makes gold a green tint. And so when you're looking at the location in Northern California, where they first found the gold, as they would say, because it's same stuff. You look in the Mayan times. That's the thing, though. There's a lot of forest down in the Mayan times, a lot of stuff down there. So what was up here in America? I got books. I got a channel I listen to that he has a lot of books he reads. Talks about stuff in the 15, 16, 17, 1800s. So it just comes down to the consciousness of the people, of who they are, and how much they can understand of what it is going within, because everything has been re-alchemized. But if you don't know alchemy from the beginning, like people want to be born, people want to be reborn, into the Christ consciousness. But how can you be reborn if you don't know your symbols and your numerical codes and sacred geometry? Because when you were born as a baby, you had to learn these things before you learned to speak. So you needed to see letters and numbers and symbols and colors before you could, this is the thing about colors. You have to see the color to be able to speak what the color is. You wouldn't, so people talk about, and then here's another one. When you're talking about numerology and language and, we'll say number 2. 2 is a number, but 2 is also a word. At what point in your mind do you transition the number into a word? See, that's the thing. It has to be a number before it comes a word. So people don't understand what they say, what they're listening to, what they know. Because everything has been twisted and turned upside down, and coming back into the heart center and having faith that everything is going to be okay. That's the part where Buddha comes into play, and Buddha's really the only path that one can take, because if you look at cultures, everybody's culture has been destroyed, and they don't know who they are. There's nothing, you're looking at Africa, it's a mess. Everything is a mess, in these end days. And that's a part of being Christian. That's a part of, you saying being Jewish. There's this third leg of the situation. And, a lot of people in America are saying, that they are Christian, that they are Jewish, but they can't reflect ancient history into their being today and understand the situation as a whole. Because the people transitioning back into heaven on earth, transitioning back into Jesus Christ, Mother Earth, whatever it be, needs to go through the frequencies of Jesus, needs to go through the frequencies of what has happened in ancient history, to understand the realms that they are truly in today. It's a soul-shattering frequency. As New Agers say, everything is a frequency. What is the frequency that we're in today? What are the lower frequencies and what are the higher frequencies? Numb. People are spiritually numb, is where they are. Satan's running amok in the technology, in the mind, and in everything. But it's freeing oneself from the manipulation. So we're at 0 point, with Divine Mother returning, with the Nagis, with the Naga, Quetzalcoatl, whatever timeline you think we are returning back to. We're not going galactic. You're not allowed to go galactic. Think you're going to go walk on some ship? Like, you're already on a ship. But that's the part that people don't understand. You're on the back of a turtle with a dragon under it. Where's your zodiac animals? Where's your sacred animals? Where's your symbols? Where's your colors? Where's your frequency? Where is your within and without, as above, so below? Because Egypt's not over there. Egypt's within, but that's part of the hijack too. Because a lot of people think, whatever. You want to be religious, you want to be biblical, you want to be spiritual. but no one understands. No one wants to go into topics and understand what people have spoken back in ancient history. Not just with what they have fed you through the Bible, through the Nagamante, through all of these Egyptian scriptures and Buddha stuff in India. There's more, and that more doesn't come with a book. That more is having everything downloaded to you from spirit, because the first book was written through the mind. You can't write a book unless it comes through you. So there's really only 2 books that were ever written. The one in the mind, and then the one book that was written. But everyone stole from that one book and manipulated that one book. Broke it up, burnt it, ripped it up, whatever they did. The story of all these books. But it only takes one book, 1 page, we'll say. 1 paragraph, 1 sentence, 1 word. Because there's only 1 word. People have lost it. Have a good day.